The accusation. The observation deck of the Nogala stretched before Rusty like a cathedral of stars, its transparent aluminum panels offering an unobstructed view of the Dinari homeworld below. The planet hung in the void like a jewel of amber and green, its 3 moons casting silvery shadows across cloud formations that swirled in patterns no Earth meteorologist had ever witnessed. Rusty Chen, just Rusty, to everyone aboard, pressed his calloused hand against the cool surface and allowed himself a moment of appreciation. After 8 months aboard this alien vessel, moments of peace had become precious commodities. Beautiful, isn't it? The voice came from behind him, the universal translator in his ear rendering the clicking, whistling Dinari language into smooth English. He didn't need to turn to recognize Lieutenant Kessa's distinctive vocal pattern, higher pitched than most Dinari males, with a musical quality that reminded him of wind chimes. It is, Rusty replied, keeping his eyes on the planet. Though I suspect we won't be admiring it for long. Kessa moved to stand beside him, her 4-fingered hand coming to rest near his on the viewport. The Dinari were humanoid enough to avoid the uncanny valley, bipedal, bilateral symmetry, recognizable facial features, but alien enough to remind Rusty that he was very far from home. Her skin bore the characteristic iridescent scales of her species, shifting from deep purple to midnight blue depending on the angle of light. 2 small horns curved back from her temples, and her eyes, large, golden, with horizontal pupils, reflected the starlight with an almost hypnotic quality. You've heard, then, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Hard not to. The whole ship's been buzzing since the transmission came through. Rusty finally turned to face her, noting the tension in her posture. Lieutenant Kessa was normally composed, efficient, everything a good officer should be. Now, she looked like someone standing on the edge of a precipice. Captain Vaughn's been summoned to the High Council. Emergency session. And according to the rumors, the words, human collaboration and treason were used in the same sentence. Kessa's facial scales rippled, a Dinari expression of distress. It's worse than rumors, Rusty. I've seen the preliminary charges. They're claiming the captain has been compromised by human influence. That he's made decisions favorable to Earth at the expense of Dinari security. That he's endangered the entire quadrant by allowing humans aboard this vessel. Allowing humans aboard? Rusty couldn't keep the bitter laugh from escaping. There are 3 of us. 3. On a crew of 417. We're not exactly staging a coup. I know that. You know that. Anyone with sense knows that. Kessa's voice dropped even lower, and she glanced around the empty observation deck as if expecting eavesdroppers to materialize from the shadows. But sense seems to be in short supply lately. The political climate back home has shifted. There's a faction in the council, led by High Arbiter Malvex, that's been pushing anti-human sentiment for months. They say humans are too unpredictable, too violent, too primitive to be trusted with galactic-level decisions. Rusty felt the old familiar weight settle into his chest, the kind of weight that came with being judged before you'd even opened your mouth. He'd felt it before, in different contexts, on different worlds. It never got easier. And Captain Vaughn's crime was treating us like people instead of problems. Essentially, yes. Kessa turned to face him fully, her golden eyes searching his face. Rusty, I need you to understand something. Captain Vaughn isn't just a good officer. He's one of the finest beings I've ever known. When he agreed to accept human crew members 2 years ago, it wasn't political calculation. It was principle. He believes, that the galaxy is stronger when we work together, when we learn from each other. I know, Rusty said softly. He's treated us with nothing but respect since day one. Never made us feel like tokens or experiments. Which is exactly why they're coming for him. Kessa's scales rippled again, anger mixing with her distress. The faction doesn't want cooperation. They want humans isolated, contained, preferably expelled from the galactic community entirely. And anyone who stands against that agenda becomes a target. A soft chime echoed through the observation deck, the ship's alert system requesting attention. Rusty pulled his personal communicator from his belt, a hybrid device that combined human and Dinari technology. The message that scrolled across its screen made his blood run cold. Kessa, when did Captain Vone leave for the planet? 3 hours ago. He took a shuttle down immediately after receiving the summons. Why? Rusty's fingers flew across the communicator's interface, pulling up system logs he probably shouldn't have had access to. One of the benefits of being underestimated, people forgot to lock you out of things. Because according to these logs, someone's been making unauthorized modifications to the ship's primary AI core. And the timestamp shows it started the moment the captain's shuttle departed. Kessa leaned in, her eyes widening as she scanned the data. That's impossible. The AI core has multiple security protocols. Even senior officers need authorization from the captain to make changes at that level. Unless someone has the captain's authorization codes. Rusty pulled up another screen, his jaw tightening as patterns began to emerge. Look at this. 17 different subsystems have had their parameters altered in the last 3 hours. Navigation, life support, communications, weapons control, someone's been very busy. But why? What purpose would? Kessa stopped mid-sentence as understanding dawned. They're sabotaging our own ship. And they're going to blame it on the humans. Rusty felt the pieces clicking into place with horrible clarity. Think about it. Captain under investigation for human collaboration. Ship mysteriously malfunctions while he's gone. 3 humans aboard with technical expertise. It writes itself. But our AI was modified by human programmers, Kessa protested. 6 months ago, when we upgraded to the new distributed network architecture. If the AI fails, they'll say it was human-designed incompetence or sabotage. Exactly. Rusty turned away from the viewport, his mind already racing through possibilities. Where are Sarah and Marcus right now? Dr. Sarah Chen and Engineer Marcus Webb, the other 2 humans aboard the Nogala. Sarah, a xenobiologist whose work on Dinari human medical compatibility had saved lives. Marcus, whose genius with fusion systems had increased the ship's efficiency by 18%. Both good people. Both about to become scapegoats. Sarah's in Medical Bay 3. Marcus is in engineering, I think. Rusty, we need to report this to First Officer Torrex immediately. Something in Kessa's voice made Rusty pause. She'd hesitated before saying Torrex's name. You don't trust him. I. Kessa's scales shifted through a complicated pattern of colors. I don't know who to trust anymore. First Officer Torrex has been different lately. More distant. He's been spending a lot of time in private communications with someone on the homeworld. And he was very vocal about his disapproval when Captain Vone expanded the human integration program. Wonderful. Rusty rubbed his face, feeling the exhaustion of 8 months of being perpetually on guard catching up with him. So the first officer might be compromised, the captain's facing trumped-up charges, and someone's actively sabotaging the ship to frame us for it. Any other good news you want to share? Before Kessa could respond, the ship's lighting flickered. It lasted only a second, but in that second, Rusty saw something that made his stomach drop. The star field beyond the viewport had shifted. Just slightly, just enough to notice if you were paying attention, but the ship had definitely moved. That's not normal, Kessa said unnecessarily. No, it's not. Rusty was already pulling up more system data on his communicator. What he found made his military training kick in, the part of himself he tried to leave behind when he'd mustered out 5 years ago. Navigation's been compromised. We're drifting out of standard orbit. Not fast enough to trigger automatic alerts, but fast enough that in another 6 hours, we'll be in a degrading trajectory. The planet's gravity will pull us in. Eventually, yes. But the beautiful part, for whoever's behind this, is that it'll look like a gradual failure. Not a sudden catastrophic event, but a slow, creeping disaster that incompetent human-modified AI couldn't catch in time. Kessa's hand found his arm, gripping with surprising strength. We have to stop this. We have to warn someone. We will. But we need to be smart about it. Rusty met her eyes, seeing fear there, but also determination. If we go public now, they'll shut us down. Lock us in quarters, restrict our access, dismiss everything we say as the desperate protests of guilty parties. We need evidence. Solid, undeniable evidence that this was deliberate sabotage from inside the crew. How do we get that? A grim smile crossed Rusty's face. The same way I got access to these logs in the first place. By being the thing they think we are, sneaky, unpredictable humans who don't play by the rules. That's dangerous. If you're caught. If I'm caught, I'm already screwed. We all are. Rusty straightened, feeling the old familiar weight of purpose settling onto his shoulders. Look, I need you to do something for me. Can you get a message to Captain Bone? Encrypted, private channel, something that won't be intercepted? Maybe. It's risky, but I know some people who owe me favors. Kessa's scales shifted to a determined steel blue. What do you want me to tell him? Tell him that whatever charges they're leveling against him, whatever evidence they claim to have, it's all building towards something bigger. Tell him to watch his back, trust no one in the High Council chamber, and whatever he does, don't let them separate him from his personal security detail. And tell him. Rusty paused, choosing his words carefully. Tell him that the humans aboard his ship are going to prove exactly what humanity stands for. Not through words, but through actions. Kessa nodded slowly. What will you do? First, I'm going to find Sarah and Marcus. We need to coordinate. Then, I'm going to do something either very clever or very stupid, I'll let you know which when it's over. He started toward the exit, then stopped and turned back. Kessa, why are you helping us? You could stay out of this, keep your head down, protect your career. The Dinari lieutenant was quiet for a moment, her gaze returning to the viewport and the world beyond. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight that Rusty recognized, the weight of conviction. Because I joined Starfleet to explore, to learn, to be part of something greater than myself. Not to watch good beings be destroyed by politics and prejudice. Captain Vone taught me that principles matter more than protocol. I suppose I'm a slow learner, but I do eventually catch on. She looked back at him, and despite the alien features, Rusty saw something utterly familiar, courage. Besides, you humans have a saying, don't you? The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good beings to do nothing. I may be Dinari, but I understand that truth. Rusty felt something loosen in his chest, a tension he'd been carrying since the moment he'd set foot on this ship. He wasn't alone. Even here, millions of light years from home, surrounded by beings who might fear or hate his species, he'd found an ally. Thank you, he said simply. Don't thank me yet. We might both end up in detention before this is over. Yeah, well. Rusty allowed himself a genuine smile. Won't be the first time for me. Though that's a story for another day. He left the observation deck at a measured pace, resisting the urge to run. Running attracted attention. Running suggested guilt or panic. Better to move with purpose, like someone who belonged, someone on official business. It was a skill he'd learned long ago, in a life he'd tried to leave behind. The corridors of the Nogala were quiet during Gamma Shift, the Dinari equivalent of night watch. Most of the crew were either sleeping or at their minimal staffing duty stations. The ship hummed around him, a gentle vibration that normally felt comforting. Now, it felt like the ticking of a clock, counting down to disaster. His communicator chimed with an incoming message. He glanced down, expecting something from Kessa. Instead, he found a priority alert from engineering. System cascade failure imminent. Core temperature rising. Automated responses not engaging. Marcus. The message was 3 minutes old. Rusty ran. To hell with not attracting attention. To hell with looking innocent. His friend was in danger, the ship was in danger, and the carefully constructed frame-up was accelerating faster than anyone had anticipated. He rounded a corner at full speed, nearly colliding with a startled Dinari ensign who squawked in alarm. Sorry, he called back, not slowing. The elevators were too slow. He found an access ladder and descended 3 decks in a controlled fall that would have made his old drill sergeant proud. Engineering was chaos. Alarms blared, lights flashed red, and crew members rushed between stations with barely controlled panic. In the center of it all stood Marcus Webb, his dark skin sheened with sweat, his hands flying across a holographic interface that sparked and glitched. Marcus. Rusty grabbed his friend's shoulder. What happened? It's crashing. All of it. Marcus didn't look away from his work. The AI's logic cores are corrupting themselves. It's like watching a brain have a stroke in real time. I've been trying to isolate the damaged sections, but every time I quarantine one, 2 more go critical. When did it start? 20 minutes ago. Started small, weird glitches, minor calculation errors. Then it accelerated. Rusty, I've been working with AI systems for 15 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's not random degradation. There's a pattern to it, almost like it's designed, Rusty finished. Marcus, someone's sabotaging the ship. And they're going to blame us for it. Marcus finally looked up, his eyes meeting Rusty's. Understanding flashed across his face, followed by anger, then grim determination. Then I guess we'd better fix it before they get the chance. Around them, the ship groaned. The lights flickered again, longer this time. Somewhere in the distance, an emergency klaxon began to wail. The Nogala incident had begun. And somewhere on the Dinari homeworld, in the marble halls of the High Council, Captain Vone stood alone before his accusers, unaware that his ship, his crew, his humans, were fighting for their lives and their honor. The galaxy was watching, though they didn't know it yet. And everything was about to change.